You're not tired. You're not lazy. You're You know the feeling. It's 3 p.m. Your eyelids are heavy. You can't focus. And all you want is that caffeine or a nap, which would work equally as well. But you slept fine. You're not sick. And you swear it didn't used to be like this. So what the heck's going on? You're not tired. You're not lazy. You're metabolically crashing. And that daily 3 p.m. fog, no, it's not normal. It's a signal. So welcome everybody to the Obesity Project, episode 93, Why You Feel Like You're Dying at 3 p.m. My name is Dr. Mark Shankman. I'm an oral and maxillofacial surgeon that has an interest in helping your entire body, not just your mouth. Also to getting to bust some myths and get to the root cause of what's really going on regarding the downstream issues. So let's get right into it. What is the real cause of your afternoon crash? So most people blame brain fog on things like poor sleep and aging or stress or burnout. But is that the root cause? That's not. What the root cause is blood sugar dysregulation and insulin resistance. So here are a couple examples of studies that show that this is the case. In diabetes care in 2018, even in non-diabetics, post-meal glucose variability is linked to cognitive impairment, mood instability, and fatigue. So what does that mean? In people who are non-diabetic, glucose variability is something that we want to minimize. We don't want to see really high spikes and really low drops in blood sugar. So post-meal blood glucose variability, big changes in the blood glucose levels can lead to cognitive impairment, so lack of clear thinking, mood instability, and fatigue. So in the Lancet Neurology journal in 2020, they showed that chronic hyperinsulinemia or elevated insulin levels impair cerebral glucose uptake. So glucose or sugar uptake by the brain, which leads to afternoon brain energy crashes, which is what we're talking about right behind me. So you didn't run out of energy, you just locked it up away in your fat cells. And high insulin means your body cannot access that stored fuel. So your brain, it actually thinks you're starving, even though you have plenty of energy stores stored away in those fat cells. So what's really happening here is that you're fueling the crash every single morning. So let's look at a typical day for the average standard American diet, folks on that diet. So your basic run-of-the-mill American diet. For breakfast, they may be eating things like cereal or fruit, toast, oat milk latte. For lunch, a sandwich, chips, maybe a salad if you're lucky. And then multiple snacks throughout the course of the day, a granola bar, maybe some trail mix. Well, here's what happens by 3 p.m. Your blood glucose has spiked and now plummeted. So you get the glucose spike, which releases insulin. The insulin drives that blood sugar down. But your insulin levels remain high. This is a critical component to what's actually going on. And your brain is crashing. And so what you reach for sugar or caffeine or both in many energy drinks, and you restart that roller coaster ride. So all day long, you eat, carbohydrates and/or sugar, processed foods. For breakfast, your blood sugar crashes. So what happens? You get hungry again, and you eat something sugary to restore your energy, and then your insulin being very high drives it back down. and you get this rock and roll, roller coaster all day long throughout the course of the day. So there was a study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition in 2019, which demonstrated that high glycemic load meals, meals that release a lot of blood sugar and real high, fast spikes, and they showed that those high glycemic load meals are associated with greater fatigue, lower alertness, and reactive hypoglycemia, meaning that, after crash, when the insulin hits the blood sugar and drives it into the cells or into the liver or into the fat, any of the places that it's going to store. But what happens is then the sugar in the blood drops and you get this hypoglycemia and this, feeling of crash. If the fuel is the problem, then what exactly is the fix? And we're going to get into that right now. So the fix is the fuel, and that's how you fix the fog. So your brain needs stable fuel, and that doesn't come from carbs every few hours. Lower carbs equals lower insulin. Higher fat equals steady energy. Ketones equal brain fuel that bypasses insulin altogether. Now, as a side note, I'm not here to talk about the carnivore diet, but many of you know I am a carnivore. I'm on the carnivore diet. I will say that I've noticed this firsthand myself. My energy levels are much more consistent throughout the course of a day. And I tend to see no real alterations. I don't get that crash after lunch or that crash at 3 p.m. I have good energy in the morning. I have good energy at the end of a day. I might be tired from a busy day at work, but the bottom line is my energy levels are much, much more stable. And this is true of carnivore, this is true of ketogenic diets, and this is true of low carb diets. Anything that gets you burning fat for fuel, there's plenty of fat on most of our bodies. We have hundreds of thousands of calories stored in our body fat. And so we have steady stores of energy that we can tap into at any moment, any day. And ketones are a great fuel. And one of the things that is very, not unoften, is very rarely talked about is that the brain actually prefers ketones. So, and because there's no need for insulin to drive that sugar or that glucose into the neurons in the brain. So ketones are a preferred energy source. So if you have equal amounts of ketones and glucose available for the brain to use, the brain is going to choose and favor those ketones. So there was a study in Frontiers in Nutrition in 2021 that demonstrated that low carb and ketogenic diets are linked to improvements in things like mental clarity, energy stability, executive function, so higher thinking, cognitive performance in insulin-resistant individuals, so people who have a strong insulin resistance ongoing. So as an analogy, if carbs are the lighter fluid, ketones are a log that you throw onto the fire. They burn much cleaner, longer, and more steadier. So how do we avoid the afternoon slump? How do we stop dying at 3 p.m. every single day? So first thing we can do is we can eat fewer, but larger meals. So 2 times a day, beat 6 small meals throughout the course of a day, because we're keeping those insulin levels very low. We can prioritize protein and healthy fats. So ditch those things like the granola, the snacks that we're eating all throughout the day. And we want to prioritize those proteins and healthy fats because they are much, much better for us. Not only do you avoid the roller coaster of blood sugar, but you're also getting a very nutrient-dense food in those proteins and healthy fats. We need to break the glucose-insulin cycle. We need to remove the spikes and get off that roller coaster ride. We need to do things like go about 4 to 6 hours between meals to improve metabolic flexibility. And then we need to do some simple things like add walking after meals, doing some body weight squats. The larger muscle groups of our body are really, really good at stabilizing blood sugar and being the glucose sink, the sink that absorbs that blood sugar after our meals. So simple, taking a 20-minute walk, doing those body weight squats, those types of things will help to stabilize the blood sugar. So some final thoughts. This isn't about your age. It's not about your mindset or how much coffee you're drinking. It's about your mitochondria. It's about running on the wrong fuel. And no, you're not tired. Your insulin is blocking your use of energy. You're not lazy. Your metabolism is completely confused. And you're not broken. You're just running on sugar. And once you fix the signal, you'll stop feeling like you're dying halfway throughout the day. So thank you so much for joining me. This was episode 93 of the Obesity Project, Why You Feel Like You're Dying at 3 p.m. So you'll stop feeling like you're dying halfway throughout the day when you fix the signal and you fix these things that we just talked about. So don't forget, here on the Obesity Project, we're cutting through the myths and getting to the root. So make sure to stay tuned for my next episode coming out tomorrow. Episode 94, Sugar is Hijacking Your Brain, one spike at a time. So hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification, like, share, and comment. As always, I really, really appreciate you. I appreciate your attention. I appreciate you sharing this with folks that need to get this information. So many of us are eating wrong. So many of us need to fix our lifestyles. And I'm here to share that information and make sure you share that with others that need to learn this info. So thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video.